Hello, Patriots. Crazy Hawk 99 here. I think most of you that are probably tuning in know what this video is going to be about. This is basically about the recent move by the ATF and the Department of Justice to restrict to a high level stabilizer braces mounted on weapons. And so that's what we're going to talk about. This will probably be a lengthy video. I'll try to keep it down. I'm going to do some reading off my computer in front of me because I want to read some stuff word for word from the ATF, and then I'll maybe make a comment or two about each point. But I'm going to try not to get too lengthy. First of all, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take this as legal advice. This should just give you some idea of what's going on. And if this is something you're concerned about, you should engage the ATF via their comment that I think closes on 4 January. We've got to get those comments in. Additionally, as I've said before, engage the White House, email the president. He's still got power while he's in office to at least while he's in office to do something about this. Now, if Biden in fact does take over in January, then all bets are off. But still, also engage your your federal representatives from your states as well. It's very important. So what prompted this, not this video, but what prompted this move by the ATF? About a week or so ago, the Biden administration had a meeting with the ATF, and they wanted to sit down and talk about two things, from what I understand, and I've heard this from numerous sources, so I believe it to be true. One, they wanted to talk about 80% lowers, and if you're not sure what an 80% lower or 80% receiver is, let me know, and I'll definitely do a shorter video on that, but give you some idea. They have rated companies and homes in the past week plus over 80% lowers and receivers, and that's only going to get worse. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And the other thing they wanted to talk about was stabilizing braces. I'm not sure why. I have an idea on 80% lowers, but I'm not sure why they're after the stabilizing braces. They may be used in a crime here and there. I'm not sure. I certainly haven't heard of any being used, but it wouldn't surprise me if they have been used. But they certainly haven't been used to the level of national attention. And if you don't know, rifles, all rifles combined, that includes lever action guns, bolt action guns, your scary black rifles like AR-15s, you name it, AK type, all combined, the death rate or the homicide rate for those is less than for blunt objects such as hammers. Annually, more people are killed by being bludgeoned to death than by all rifles combined, let alone just scary black ones. So that's a little sidebar there, and that's from the FBI statistics. I'm not making that up. So again, if you've seen some of my posts, you know the ATF put out a warning, not a warning, they put out a letter of intent on their proposed restrictions for stabilizing braces. They published it 2 or 3 days ago, and we have about 2 weeks to make comment, and then they're going to decide how they're going to move forward on it. And if we don't engage at a high body count as far as the number of people that engage them, for sure they will go through this. They may anyway, but we need to try. Much of the information I'm going to present, some of you will know some of this, some of you won't. Bear with me. We'll try to run at the pace of the slowest person, so to speak. This video is not all encompassing. The letter, and I can post a link, and the information, there's a lot of stuff in it, but this is going to be the majority of what the impacts are going to be, but not the nitty-gritty details of some of the other stuff that you may be interested in as well. So let's see, without further ado, see if I can get this thing to go. Okay, first off, what is a pistol versus a rifle? In accordance with the NFA, that's the National Firearms Act. I'm not going to get into that in detail either, but that's one of the things that regulates the restrictions that are put on firearms. A rifle is defined as a firearm that has a barrel at least 16 inches long and the overall length of the firearm must be 29 inches or longer. If it's shorter than 29 inches overall length, or if the barrel is less than 16 inches, it's not a rifle. The ATF says it's not a rifle. If you've got a buttstock on it and it's got a barrel shorter than 16 inches, then the ATF considers that a short barrel rifle. And before you can even own that, you have to apply to the ATF for a tax stamp that costs you $200, and they have to approve it. And then once they do, that gun is registered to you and you only. You can't loan it to a friend. You can't even cross state boundaries with it without the ATF's permission. And that's just a little bit of some of the restrictions. So that's what a rifle is. That's what an SBR is. A pistol is something that doesn't have a buttstock on it. Let's just say that. All the ones I have here have braces on them, but I'll give you an idea right here. This is a Scorpion, the CZ Scorpion, and it comes in two configurations. The pistol configuration, which would be minus this part right here, and then that's just fired as a pistol, and then with this brace attached, it's still a pistol. Okay, now if we put a well, we won't go into the barrel length on this, but this has got a short barrel on it, obviously. So with the brace on it, it's still a pistol. Without the brace on it, it's still a pistol. So that's the way the ATF has reviewed this in the past, for probably going on 10 years now since braces have been out. But again, if it's less than 16 inches in barrel length and you have a buttstock, this isn't a buttstock, it's a stabilizing brace. If you have a buttstock on it, that's considered a short barrel rifle and has to be approved before you can even take possession of it. So that's a little bit there. So we'll enter the stabilizing brace and we'll give you a little rundown on some stabilizing braces. Apologies for the pauses. This is not going to be a refined product. I haven't had a lot of time to do this. We covered that already on the barrel length. Again, they've been around for going on 10 years now. In the past, the ATF has released various letters on what you can and can't do with a brace. At one point in time, this is a shockwave stabilizing brace on it, non-adjustable, at least quickly. You can adjust it and then set the screw and leave it again. But in the past, the ATF had no problem if somebody shouldered the brace, and then they came out a while later after people bombarded them with questions and said you couldn't intentionally shoulder the brace. If it happened to hit your shoulder, it wasn't a big deal, but you could do this and you'd be okay. And then they came out again and rescinded that and said, no, it's okay if you shoulder the brace occasionally or whatever. It doesn't redefine the weapon from a pistol to a short barrel rifle, because it has a stabilizing brace on it. So this is some of the stuff the ATF has done in the past. And let's talk a little bit about some stabilizing braces here. I think that's next up. We're going to get you some different braces. This is what one looks like before you put it on a weapon. This would go on the receiver extension. Some of you may know that to be the buffer tube, but it's actually called a receiver extension. It would slip on there and secured by basically friction, because this particular one has no securing mechanism. It's just really tight. That's one method. This is the one I just showed you. This is the shockwave, and you can adjust the length of pull that goes over the receiver extension with the set screw. You adjust it and you tighten it down, and then it's set until you loosen the screw again. So it's not a quick adjustment. And here's some others. This is the SB M4. Looks kind of like an M4 buttstock, but it is a stabilizing brace. And there's others here. This is the SB A3. This is one of the more popular ones. It uses a traditional standard mil-spec receiver extension / buffer tube, and it is quickly adjustable, and I'll demonstrate one of those here in a second. So there are various types of braces out. There's tons of them out, and the cost spectrum on them is all over the world. So here's an example of a firearm with another form of stabilizing brace. This is an SB tactical one as well. Most of mine are, by the way. And this one and many like it have a Velcro strap, and this is made of a somewhat flexible rubber. And you see it moves around on here, and it's made for those that are handicapped, can put their arm in that and then cinch this this Velcro down here. I'm handicapped, but not necessarily in that fashion. And then they can, it gives them a more secure way to hold the weapon for those people that have physical handicaps. And that was the reason that they were designed in the first place. However, in addition to that, they're also functional on the weapon in general. I mean, there's nothing says that you can't shoot this thing without shouldering it and using two hands or whatever. So that's one on a Draco pistol. This is a pistol, by the way. Again, not a rifle. It's a pistol because it has a short barrel. Well, even if it didn't have a short barrel, it'd still be a pistol, and it has no buttstock on it. It has a stabilizing brace. And here's a similar weapon that has another SB Tactical type of one, the same type of a mechanism here, but a slightly different design, but same company. And this if I took this off, it would still be a pistol. Put it on, it's a pistol. Here's one from SB Tactical. This is our SBA4, one of the more popular ones. And this one is, you can adjust the length of pull on it, suitable to whatever you need. So let's just go all the way out. It would still be on your forearm at the most extended position. You'd still be able to put that around your forearm or brace your forearm against it. I should note, for example, this shockwave system doesn't have that strap system on it, and this is the way it was approved by the ATF, just like this. And it's just you rest your forearm against it. That was their. I mean, it was approved under those forms. So there's various different ones out there. There's some that have rods on each side of the firearm receiver that slide it forward and back or whatever. I don't have any of those. So we talked about how you can and can't use them. Up until this letter, this was a stabilizing brace, this was a pistol, and you could shoot it like this if you wanted to, with your arm extended. I can't extend my arms, we'll talk about that later, this arm anyway. You can shoot it just like that, like you would a traditional handgun, or you can shoot it like this, you can shoot it like this, you can shoot it like this, up until this letter anyway. And this letter doesn't really tell you how you can and can't shoot stuff anymore. It's just telling you what is a pistol and what is not, and that's what's changed. The ATF intent to redefine pistols with a brace installed as an SBR. So that's basically what they're doing. They're now saying, we're going to evaluate these, and we're going to talk about the qualifiers on whether they consider it a pistol or not. And if they don't consider it a pistol, it doesn't matter if you got this brace on it or not. They're going to treat it just like if this was a buttstock. A traditional buttstock, and this is going to be a short barrel rifle, which means if you were to keep it, you would have to register with the ATF and with those other restrictions we talked about. We'll touch on that a little bit more in a little bit. They say the qualifiers are objective, and I want to tell you that if you think they're objective when we get through this, leave me a comment, because I'll be very surprised. In my opinion, they're completely subjective and extremely ambiguous. The qualifiers are, I'll list them and then we'll go through them individually. Number one, type and caliber. So what type of a bullet is used, what caliber bullet is used. Number two, weight of the firearm and length of the firearm. Number three, length of pull. We talked a little bit about length of pull on some of these braces that can be adjusted quickly. Like I said, this shockwave brace can be adjusted, but not quickly. You have to loosen this, slide it, tighten it down. I'm probably beating a dead horse there. Length of pull. Attachment method, how the brace is attached to the firearm, and stabilizer design features. So those are the general qualifiers, and without further ado, let's go into type and caliber. I quote from the ATF, the type and caliber of firearm to which stabilizing brace or similar item is installed. A large caliber firearm that is impractical to fire with one hand because of recoil or other factors, even with an arm brace, is likely to be considered a rifle or shotgun. I haven't talked about shotguns, but right now you can get those shockwave Mossberg shotguns. You can put a brace on those, and that's completely legal with the ATF up until this proposed restriction. They're going to consider it. There's no such thing as short barrel shotgun, but it's any other device or deadly device or whatever, but they're going to register or restrict those as well. So if you have a short shotgun like these pistols, and you have a brace on it, same problem's going to be in your face. So that's the quote from them. So here's what I have: is that there's absolutely no clue what would for sure constitute a rifle, or what would still be considered a pistol. Is a 22 long rifle? Say one of these, none of these are, but if it's 22 long rifle, is that okay? Let's see, this one right here is 9mm. Is 9mm? Is that caliber too big, or is that a large caliber? I don't know. Let's see what we got here. This is a 223 gun here, 5.56 223. We don't know. Is that okay? A 308? Is that okay? Is it not okay? Is what? I mean, certainly there's got to be a caliber they could tell us if this is a 300 blackout. You know, is that okay? And of course we've seen a 7.62 by 3.9 AK type of caliber here. 458 SOCOM. That's a pretty big one. You know, I don't think anybody's probably shooting a 458 SOCOM out of one of these one-handed, or a 308 for that matter. Why would you? You know. So that's, like I said, ambiguous. They tell type and caliber will decide whether or not they're going to consider it a pistol or a rifle / shotgun, but they won't give you a clue to what is an acceptable, for sure, caliber. You'd think 22 long rifle would be, right? I mean, that's about as small as it gets. Or something bigger is definitely not a pistol. We don't know. While we're on that, no, we'll come to that later. But anyway, that's type and caliber. Let's move on. Weight and length. Quote, the weight and length of the firearm used with the stabilizing brace. A firearm that is so heavy that it is impractical to fire or aim with one hand, or so long that it's difficult to balance the firearm to fire with one hand, is likely to be considered a rifle or shotgun, end quote. There's nothing defined there. That was a big, long generality. How heavy is too heavy? What weight is acceptable? Certainly something has to be acceptable. Here we go. Let's give you an example here. It's 460 Smith & Wesson revolver. This is a pretty heavy firearm. You can shoot it one-handed. Like I said, I can't with that hand. I'll talk about that later. But I won't. I wouldn't shoot that one-handed. Why would you shoot that one-handed when you could use two hands and be more stable and more effective? If you're more effective, then you're less likely to hit what you're not aiming at, if that makes any sense. In other words, miss your target and hit something else. So the ATF in this case is saying, if you can't shoot these due to the weight or length, particularly the weight, one-handed effectively, then maybe they're going to consider them a rifle. I say preposterous. Why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you at least be able to do this? That's two-handed. Or how about this? The more points of contact you have, the more control you have over the firearm. That's just responsible gun ownership 101. So if you don't have a brace installed, what then? What if you don't have a brace on it, but it's still too heavy? Just because of the braces on it is going to make it a short barrel rifle. But if you take the brace off, even if it's still too heavy, you shoot one hand and you need to shoot two hands. It's a pistol then, according to the ATF. That's what it sounds like. There's no given as far as length goes. What is acceptable, what isn't acceptable, and I think here they're talking overall length. But overall length, when you're talking about these large, is going to come into play with the length of the barrel. But again, they don't say that, and they don't say for sure what's okay and what's not okay. This is probably the shortest one I have. This is a 5.56 gun, and it's got a 7.5-inch barrel on it. It's got a Law tactical folder on it, which makes it just a little longer. But this has got a short barrel, 7.5 inches. I forget which exactly. That's about as short as I can make it. I mean, they make 5-inch barrels and I think 4-inch barrels. But is that short enough, or is it too long? I don't know. Length of pull. Quote, the length of pull refers to the distance from the trigger to the point at which a stock meets the shoulder. This is a measurement for rifles and shotguns used to accommodate shooters of different sizes. Because an arm brace need only reach the forearm, the distance between the trigger and the back of the brace is generally expected to be shorter than the distance between the trigger and the back of the stock on a weapon designed intended to be fired from the shoulder. This measurement is not necessarily determinative of the intent of the manufacturer, but is used in making an evaluation of the firearm. If a brace is of a length that makes it impractical to attach to the shooter's wrist or forearm, then that may demonstrate that it is not designed as a brace, but rather for shoulder fire. End quote. Again, what length of pull is definitely okay. What's an example of length of pull that is too long? With this very objective qualifier, if let's just say I'm 6'3" and 250, and heck, I got these big old football player lineman forearms. So my length of pull is out here with my forearm, but then I hand the gun to a midget. So because the midget, and I'm not trying to be mean with that term, I'm just trying to make an example. This small person, maybe their forearm is right here, but because this is too long for them, their forearm, are they now holding the rifle when just a couple seconds ago it was a pistol for that guy? This is insanity. It's just bizarre. Attachment method. Quote, the method of attachment of the stabilizing brace to include modified stock attachments, extended receiver extensions, and the use of spacers. These items extend the distance between the trigger and the part of the weapon that contacts the shooter. Whether it is a stock or a stabilizing brace, use of these items indicates the weapon is designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder because they extend a stabilizing brace beyond a point that is useful for something other than shoulder support. End quote. I don't really, quite frankly, understand this one. There's probably smarter people out than me, than clearly the person that wrote this is. This one's very confusing. I don't know what an extended receiver extension is. I've been around firearms a little bit, and spacers. Since they put this in there, there's got to be something out there that's driving this, but I've got no idea what they're talking about. Do folding, like this Law Tactical is this folding stock adapter. It's just makes it. You can't, by the way, fire it in this position. That's not. Well, you probably could once, and it's going to blow the bolt carrier to the rear and the gun apart. But it does make it more compact if you want to throw it in your car, your backpack, or whatever if you're hunting, and then you lock it in position. But because of that, it does add, I'd say, about 1.5 inches. But I don't think that's a spacer. That's a folding attachment, which they haven't mentioned at all in this letter, best I can determine. So that's attachment method. Stabilizing brace design features. There's a lot of these, so this will take a little bit. The objective design features of the attached, this is a quote, the objective design features of the attached stabilizing brace itself are relevant to the classification of the assembled weapon and include 1. The comparative function of the attachment when utilized as a stabilizing brace compared to its alternate use as a shouldering device. The comparative function of the attachment when utilized as a stabilizing brace. So they're saying, how functional is it as a stabilizing brace? Well, this Shockwave seems to be the less functional as a stabilizing brace, but it's been one of the earliest ones that the ATF, quote, approved, end quote. So I don't know why they'd have a problem with it now, but that's the way the government works, right? They change their mind as they want. And then maybe these that you can put your arm through and strap, maybe these are more functional. I don't know. But there's a lot of room for interpretation there, which is probably the scariest part about this whole thing. It'd be bad enough if they came out and said, X, Y, and Z will make this gun automatically a rifle, and you're going to have to deal with it from, accordingly. but they haven't said that. They say X might, Y might, Z might, or Y and Z might, or X and Z might, or maybe they might not. That's where they're at. That's exactly what this letter's saying. I'm not even being dramatic. Okay, point 2 under design features. Quote, the design of the stabilizing brace compared to known shoulder stock designs, end quote. Does it look, and this is my comment, does it look and act too much like a butt stock? This is probably one of the most objective, it's not objective, but you can kind of see this one. This one does seem, perhaps, to act and look like a butt stock, but that doesn't mean it's still not a functional stabilizing brace. It looks like a Magpul MOE buttstock. It even adjusts somewhat like it, but a Magpul buttstock doesn't have a method to use it as a stabilizing brace, and this is a functional stabilizing brace. That's where I'm coming in on that one. Point 3 under design features, quote, the amount of rear contact surface area of the stabilizing brace that can be used in shouldering the weapon as compared to the surface area necessary for use as a stabilizing brace, end quote. You know, again, very subjective. Without defining the acceptable and unacceptable surface area, this is totally ambiguous. You see what they're saying. Is there more surface area than on the back here than needs to be for a stabilizing brace? I don't think so, because for this, in this case, this one case in point, and the others very similar, this is as wide as it needs to be for you to put your arm in, and this piece has to be here because it's the whole thing slides over this receiver extension. So I see what they're saying, but what I'm saying is I can't see how they can determine that this has too much. Perhaps this one has too much surface area, or more than it needs to be for a stabilizing brace, so that makes it more like a buttstock. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Okay, point 4, material, quote, the material used to make the attachment that indicates whether the brace is designed and intended to be pressed against the shoulder for support or actually used on the arm. The material used to make the attachment that indicates whether the brace is designed and intended to be pressed against the shoulder. Okay, end quote. So still very subjective. So they're saying, what's it made out of? Well, this one's a really hard plastic to give it support, but that's the only support it has, a shockwave, because it doesn't have the fancy straps or the rubber that wraps around your arm. And frankly, that doesn't make it comfortable. There's no butt pad on it like you find on a buttstock. It doesn't necessarily make it more comfortable. And the same thing with this. You know, what's it made out of? It's made out of a flexible type of rubber, fairly stiff but flexible, flexible enough to get your arm in. It has to be. And they're saying, are they saying maybe because it's some type of rubber? And by the way, it doesn't give. It's hard back here. But is that they're saying that could potentially make it more comfortable to shoot from the shoulder than if it was a more solid material? I don't know. Point 5 under design features, quote, any shared or interchangeable parts with known shoulder stocks, end quote. All right, so do I have one? Yeah. So here, this is SB A4. A4 hence looks something like an M4, and this is the SB A3. They look a little different, but they function the same, and they have the same ergonomics. Frankly, this piece, the A4 down here has. Doesn't add anything to it. It may add a little bit more for the brace, but they both operate the same way. However, they both are adjustable, very similar to a traditional buttstock. But here's the kicker. Let's see if I can do this. This is the receiver extension, or what everybody likes to call a buffer tube. These two that I'm demonstrating, and others may as well, but these two for sure, they use the same mil-spec part that a buttstock does, and that seems to be a problem with this letter. It's one of the few things they say on here that is not as subjective as the others. This could be considered objective. This uses a part that a gun with a buttstock would use. Why is that a problem if this is a legitimate brace? I don't know. Are they afraid that you could quickly put a buttstock on here if you wanted to? Sure, you could, but you could do that anyway if you wanted to break the law. I mean, if I wanted to break the law, I could put a buttstock on here right now. I could slip, by the way, if I had one and demonstrated and slipped it on here, I'd be a federal criminal, just to show you what you can't do. And we're not going to do that. But so this part does share a part with shoulder stock. But every one of these that is on an AR-15 style weapon, or AR-10 for that matter, uses a castle nut to secure down this buffer tube. And that castle nut's also used on buttstocks. Is that because that's a shared part? Does that make it a rifle? This one with that's not a, well, it does use a castle nut though. This has nothing to do with a AR-15, but it uses a buffer or a receiver extension for the shockwave. But this isn't a mil spec. This isn't one you can use for a buttstock. But it does have a castle nut on it, which is a common part for guns with buttstocks. Is that a problem? I would think not. I would certainly hope not, because you need that to attach any form of brace on one of these style that we're talking about here. So, you know, there's that. Point 6, still under design features. Quote, any other feature of the brace that improves the weapon's effectiveness from the shoulder firing position without providing a corresponding benefit to the effectiveness, the stability, and support provided by the brace's use on the arm, end quote. And there's a bunch of these. So the first one that fall under this point 6, this any other features that improve the weapon's effectiveness from the shoulder firing position that don't add to it as a brace. So the first one is aim point. Inappropriate, this is a quote, inappropriate aim point when utilizing the attachment as a stabilizing brace. If the aim point when using the arm brace attachment results in an upward or downward trajectory that could not accurately hit a target, this may indicate the attachment is not designed as a stabilizing brace. So what they're saying, for example, if you put your arm through this rascal right here, and because of this, the way it's built, if it, you know, if it made your arm go up like this, you know, that would be a problem. I've messed with you know, half a dozen different designs at least of these, and they all seem to be putting pretty much your arm in line with the firearm, which is what you want. So I've not seen any that might be a problem in that regard. But you know, there might be one out there. And still under design features and anything that improves the effectiveness of the shoulder position. Secondary grip. The presence of a secondary grip may indicate that the weapon is not a pistol because it's not designed to be held and fired by one hand. May indicate is my, and that's a quote, the secondary grip, quote, the presence of a secondary grip may indicate that the weapon is not a pistol because it is not designed to be held and fired by one hand, end quote. May indicate is the key there. If it's, I've got one here with this called an angled foregrip, and the ATF saying because that's on it, it may indicate, because that's not necessary for it to fire with one hand. But again, I'm a firm believer in it. If you, that doesn't mean I can't shoot it with one hand just because that's there. That means I can still shoot with one hand. That doesn't keep me from shooting with one hand, but it also allows me to use a second hand if the opportunity presents itself. And again, for stability, why wouldn't you? It just makes sense. I wonder if the ATF, when they use their firearms in the course of their job, if they always shoot one-handed. Because if they put two hands on it, are they holding a pistol? I know I'm being facetious there, but you know, you get my point. Okay, what about this? Here's one. This doesn't have a vertical forward grip. It has a hand stop on it. I would say they're probably going to say that's a may indicate. It doesn't add to the one-handed shooting at all. But if I am shooting two-handed, it keeps me from putting my hand out here so far, because it does have a shorter barrel on it, that I shoot my fingers off. but they don't mention hand stops. They particularly talk about secondary grips, and that isn't a grip. That's something to keep your hand from going too far forward. Still on any other features, sights and scopes. Incorporation of a sight or scopes, this is a quote, incorporation of sights or scopes that possess eye relief incompatible with one-handed firing may indicate that the weapon is not a pistol, because they are designed to be used from a shoulder-fired position or incompatible for the single-handed shooting that arm braces are designed and intended. Okay, so this was pretty clear-cut, all right? Shucks, I thought I had one on here. I think I do. Yeah, this 300 Blackout's got a, I think this is a magnified optic. Huh? Yeah, this is probably a 2 or 3 power magnified optic. So can I shoot? Can I use it this way? Actually, I can use it that way. I could. Well, that's I'm not one-handed, but I got to use this hand because of my bad arm. So I can still see through that because it's a low power. But I still don't think they would like it because eye relief is an issue with it. But I can still see the objective enough to shoot it. But it's made to shoot. This optic is made to shoot with some type of a cheek weld. So any of you know that on a big gun handgun like this, you can put a scope on it, but it's a long eye relief scope, so it's made so that the eye relief is back here, not close up. That's what they're talking about. So what they're also talking about is the sights on it. Can they still be used? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Here's an AK style of sight system on here, and there's no magnified, there's no eye relief issues per se, but to be honest with you, these sights suck if you're shooting it like you would a rifle, to be honest with you. So can you use these single-handed? I suppose, but you wouldn't be effective. That's going to be a problem, I'm guessing. Other sights may be more like a red dot, like this one's got a red dot on it. No problem. That's a red dot. This shouldn't pose a problem. But again, it doesn't say it doesn't. It's up to their discretion. Still on any other features, quote, peripheral accessories. Installation of peripheral accessories commonly found on rifles or shotguns that may indicate that the firearm is not designed and intended to be held and fired with one hand. This includes, but is not limited to, the installation of bipods/monopods that improve the accuracy of heavy weapons designed and intended to be fired from the shoulder, or the inclusion of magazines or drum that accept so many cartridges that it increases the overall weight of the firearm to a degree that is impractical to fire the weapon with one hand, even with the assistance of a stabilizing brace, end quote. Let's talk about bipods. Oh, probably 30 some years ago, Thompson Center Contender pistols were a big deal. You could change the barrel, you could change the configuration of caliber pretty easily, but they're pistols. They had barrels on them maybe that long, and you lay down and shoot them, different positions or whatever. It was not uncommon for people to put a bipod on it. I've seen Ruger 22 Charger pistols that people put bipods on, no brace or anything, just a bipod. But what's the deal? So now if I do that with a gun just because it has a brace on it, but I'm using a bipod, it couldn't possibly be used as a brace anymore? No, it just means it's kind of like using a two-hand thing. When the opportunity allows itself, you want to be as stable and as effective as absolutely necessary. So I throw the BS flag on that one. Regarding magazine drums are objective, but but accept so many cartridges that it may increase your overall weight. Again, very objective. So we'll talk about magazines. Make sure I got here. So 30 rounds. Is that gonna make it too heavy? Well, first of all, we don't even know if this is too heavy in the first place because they haven't told us. But when I start putting rounds in it, it's going to get heavier, right? So is 30 rounds too heavy? I don't know. How about the 60-round magazine? Is that going to be too heavy? Maybe for some people. How about a 10-round magazine? Certainly that would be okay, right? I don't know. How about a drum? Oh, they already said that drums are probably going to be a problem because they mention them. They don't say they're automatically going to make them a rifle, but they're saying we don't like them. Or they didn't say we don't like them. They mention them by type. So that's a problem. Same thing with AKs. You know, we got all kinds of AKs coming in all kinds of different capacities as well. Got a nice, beautiful Bakelite mag there, but you can also get these little tiny 10-rounders, you know. But we don't know which one of them's going to work, or which one of them's going to make the ATF happy, and which one is going to make us register our firearm. More ATF ramblings. Quote, these factors are based on known stabilizing braces and similar attachments. No single factor or combination of factors is necessary to necessarily depositive, and FATD examines, that's a branch within the agency, examines each weapon holistically on a case-by-case basis because of changes in design or configuration of a weapon or attachment, as well as future changes in technology. This list is not exhaustive, and other factors may still become relevant to a weapon's classification, end quote. So that basically means they need to look at each gun individually before they can tell you if it's going to qualify as a pistol or if you will have to deal with it as a rifle. How is that going to work? I mean, are we supposed to send them pictures of it? Are they supposed to come out and evaluate everybody's guns? That's not going to happen. But it says here, and it also, at the end there, it says this is not an exhaustive list, and more things may come to light. I'm sure they will. Continuing on that with quote, ATF recognizes that before issuance of this notice, there was a misunderstanding by some that a pistol assembled with any item purported to be a stabilizing brace still would be considered a pistol regardless of other characteristics. Well, why did we consider that? They knew it to be a fact, and they're saying, yeah, you were wrong to consider that, but to consider a pistol, but really we never intended it to be. Like I said, braces have been out for almost 10 years. Continuing on, to quote, the objective factors discussed here make clear that while some stabilizing braces may lawfully be used on pistols without bringing the firearm within the purview of the NFA, that is not necessarily the case for every pistol, because some firearms are configured or have characteristics such as that they meet the statutory definition of a rifle or shotgun. Hereafter, affected stabilizer-equipped firearms. Okay, so they're going to call them stabilizer-equipped firearms, SEF. Yeah. ATF understands that most individuals who acquired affected stabilizer-equipped firearms did so in good faith, reliance on relationship or representations made by those selling the stabilizer brace or the firearms, that those firearms were not subject to the NFA. End quote. Digest that at your leisure. So what's the problem? Just comply, right? Just comply. How? They haven't told us if this is a pistol or a rifle. They haven't told us if this is, if that is. They haven't told us if you can even own this, one of these, off of a weapon after the end of this period before they go into law. I'm assuming not. And of course, this proposal, this is me. Just because your gun has a brace on it, you shouldn't be able to use two hands to shoot it. That's what they're saying. They're saying because it's got a brace on it, that should only be pretty much fired with one hand. I mean, perhaps I'm dim, but I just don't get that. It's asinine. Like I said, even with this carry piece here, if I pull that out, if I've got the opportunity, I'm going to put two hands on that rascal. And secured as much as I can so I can hit what I'm aiming at, and I don't want to hit what I'm not aiming at. But the ATF says if you got a brace on it, you can't do that. But the funny thing is, if you take this off, well, you can't on this one. But if some of these, like this right here, this I can take this off and shoot it. I can use two hands in if there's no brace on it. This firearm you can fire without a receiver extension because it doesn't have a reciprocating bolt carrier. But I can shoot it like this. Heck, I could even pull it up here without this on it. I can even pull it up here and look like that. But if I've got a brace on it and I use two hands, the ATF say that's not good. How about this? Can I just shoot it like this, like a regular gun? Could I do that? So I talked about braces. I don't necessarily need a brace, but for me to shoot with anything out extended, I've got a tear in my elbow here, and I can't hold anything. There's no problem at extended arm's length, and most all these firearms including that 460, I can't hold it out there without it hurting, and I certainly can't use it. So I have to use my if I wanted to do that, I have to use my non-dominant hand. Or I could use two hands, which is what I do when I'm shooting a rifle or a braced pistol or a regular pistol. I use two hands. But of course the ATF, I couldn't do that. So we already talked about how do you know? You don't know. How do you know what you've got? You don't know. Unless you submit your gun to the ATF for an evaluation, you must do one of the following. So here's what they're proposing to comply. If you're not sure and you want to keep this, then they're going to allow you to register it as an SBR, short barrel rifle, and they're going to waive the $200 fee for a short period of time, and then it'll be registered with the ATF forever. Now, again, you can't loan that to anybody. So if somebody's with you shooting, they can shoot it, but you can't give it to them to take home. You can't. I visit Missouri all the time. I can't take this to Missouri without first officially requesting permission from the ATF and receiving that permission back. If I want to sell this in Virginia, I have to transfer it to an FFL dealer, and then the person that buys it has to pay $200, apply for a tax stamp. If he's approved, he gets to come pick the gun up and take it home. If he's not approved, I have to pay $200 to get it back from that dealer because it was transferred to that dealer. That's Virginia because there are no private sales. But regardless, even if that wasn't the case, if I sell this to one of my cousins or one of my relatives or my best friend, first he's going to have to pay $200 to the ATF and apply to purchase and own this weapon. And if he's approved, then it's registered to him forever, and it's not registered for me anymore. So you don't want to do that. Okay, so you have to remove the brace and all its components and destroy them. So that means if this was on there, you take it off, you have to destroy this. And if it has a receiver extension like those that are mil-spec ones, you'd have to take that off and put, first of all, take it completely off, or put a non-standard receiver extension on it, such as this. Like this one, I could take this shockwave piece off of here, and this is considered a pistol buffer tube, and you couldn't put a buttstock on that, so it'd be okay to just leave that on there, so it'd look kind of like this, right? That would be okay. You could do that, or you could leave the brace on it, and you can put a barrel 16 inches or longer on it. You can do that, but if you do that, it's going to cost you money. Not only is it going to cost you money to throw this barrel out, the 70s barrel out, now you're going to have a handguard here that's only made for a 7-inch gun, and you're going to have 10 more inches of about 9 or 10 inches of barrel out here with no handguard on it. So you're going to put a new handguard on it. So there's another couple $100. So that to change that barrel out is going to cost you, several $100 easy. That's and you got some paperweight parts there. They're not ATF and FI items. They're just can't put them back on that gun. Or you can turn your gun in to the ATF, and they will dispose of it for you, your entire firearm, if that's what you want to do. But here, I'm not happy with any of this, but here's what they're not going to help you with. They are going to waive the fee if you want to, for a short period of time, if you want to register it. But if you don't want to register it, you just want to get rid of your stuff, they're going to make you destroy this, and they're not going to give you any compensation. They changed the rules. The government agency that put out what you could do, like with bump stocks, they're changing the rules, and they don't care how much money it cost you or how much money you lost, because they changed the rules. That's as wrong as two boys in a tub. I don't care who you are. So, why are they doing this? Well, there's some people out there saying they're trying to get people to register guns. And I tend to believe that there's some validity to that. I think that they think most people are going to want to keep their stuff, because gun guys like their guns, and they're going to keep their stuff, and so they're going to register them. And then the ATF's going to have this huge list of people that have ugly, scary black weapons. And I also think that next they're going to come for AR-15s, because if they can get away with this, they're just going to keep going. And if you don't believe that, if you sit by and let the bump stock ban thing happen without making as much noise as you could, and then you probably believe that this will be the end of it, but it won't be. They're going to they're going to come after, I believe, AR-15 style weapons. Just control through registration. This is called dying by 1,000 tiny cuts. You take this one cut, no big deal. Another cut, no big deal. At some point, you bleed to death. And that's what's happening right now. Liberty's bleeding to death. Why are they doing it now? Well, people are distracted right now. They're distracted over the whole presidential, is it a fraudulent election, is it not a fraudulent election? We'll get into that. And it's holidays, Christmas. Great, this is great. This is just drop a bomb like this right before the holidays. So even though you gave people about 2 weeks to comment for whatever good it may do us, even though you gave them that, at least half of that is taken up by holidays. More than that, really, because the deadline is 4 January, so you got New Year's and Christmas to interfere with doing something about this. But you must take the time to act. You absolutely must take the time to act. Get on the ATF's website. Ping me. I'll send you the link to how you comment on a letter. If you do comment, please comment. Please drop a comment. Tell them why you don't like it. Don't be an ass. Don't use vulgarity. First of all, they'll probably flag you, but they'll probably discard it. So be as respectful as you can, given the fact we do not respect this agency. I don't. I respect law enforcement like probably no other person, but I don't respect the ATF. There might be some good guys in there, but there ain't enough of them. And what must you do? We talked about it. Email the president, call the president. I can get you those phone numbers too. You're not going to talk to the man, but you're going to get, the correspondence to his team. Hey, he owes us. He stood there on in front of the NRA and the world and said how he's going to be the champion of the Second Amendment. Frankly, he's not shown me anything. I'm not here to bash Trump. I'm just saying we need to hold his feet to the fire. We've been supporting him through this fraudulent election thing. We've supported him for the last 4 years. He needs to show us something, even if it's just delays this until Biden gets in there and he can control the ATF. But the ATF still works for the president. They're still appointed, or the head is anyway. Email your state federal representatives. And here's the other thing. If you're not a member of Gun Owners America, if you're not a member of Firearms Policy Coalition, join both of those. It's very little money annually. Donate to them as much as you can, whenever you can. But these are organizations that are taking the fight to the enemy. The NRA is not doing it. I'm not going to get off topic here with the NRA. I'm just saying they're not doing it. Gun Owners of America Firearms Policy Coalition. And the other thing you can do is spread the word. Share this video, share links, you know, tell everybody you can to get involved, because we need everybody on deck. We need all hands on deck to make any headway at all. You're going to see this on Facebook, but please, as usual, if you can, open app in YouTube app itself, so you give me a like and a subscribe if you so desire. But the more people do that, the more people are going to see this video within YouTube outside of my Facebook channel. So please consider doing that. And I'll leave you with these words, and wish you a good night. All I can say is, united we stand, divided we fall. Thanks for your time.